The drama and the intrigue of the NBA free agency period got nice and juicy Sunday as well, topped by the news that Paul George's run with the Clippers is all but done. The team announcing that PG informed them of his intentions to sign elsewhere for next season. In 5 years in LA, he made 3 All-Star teams, was third team in All-NBA in 2021, and alongside Kawhi Leonard that year, led the Clippers to their only appearance in the conference finals. So the Clippers released the statement that read in part, quote, "We negotiated for months with Paul and his representative on a contract that would make sense for both sides, and we were left far apart. The gap was significant. We understand and respect Paul's decision to look elsewhere for his next contract. We explored an opt-in and trade scenario, but it would have left us in a similar position under the new CBA with very little asset value to justify the restriction." So this marks the end of the Paul George and Kawhi Leonard partnership in LA. Clippers made a massive swing to get PG in 2019, sending a package that included Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and 5 first-round picks to the Thunder. One of those picks became Jalen Williams, another key piece right now for Oklahoma City's young core.
So by the magic of TV, you say free agency, and then Woj just appears. He's just here. Okay, so what is the latest on Paul George?
Paul George is going to meet with the Philadelphia 76'ers late tonight on the West Coast, and they are strong front runners to land Paul George in free agency. The Orlando Magic are gone now. They did a deal with Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, and of course the Clippers, who, as indicated there, negotiated for about a year with Paul George. They could never get there on an extension. The Clippers were unwilling to go to a 4th year. They did it with Kawhi Leonard. They didn't want to do it with Paul George. It is, in their minds, the reality of this new collective bargaining agreement. The 4th year is important to Paul George, and so he will sit with the Sixers tonight, and everything is lined up for Paul George to walk in there and get what he's looking for. But the Philadelphia is a strong front runner now to land Paul George to play with Joel Embiid and, of course, Tyrese Maxey.
The one that is hard to picture in another uniform would be Klay Thompson and the Warriors. What's going on there?
He's clearly headed for another uniform. His career in Golden State is essentially over. His agent, Greg Lawrence, tonight of Wasserman, are talking with a number of teams, including the Lakers and the Dallas Mavericks. They've had conversations tonight. I'm told LeBron James called Klay Thompson right when free agency opened, 6 p.m. Eastern, reached out, talked to Klay Thompson. The expectation that I have right now is these conversations, this negotiation, will go into tomorrow. They're probably solution tonight, but certainly Dallas, the Lakers, the Clippers are working to be involved in this. Those are the prominent teams for Klay Thompson, whose career is going to be somewhere other than Golden State once his free agency period's over.
Have your phones out. Keep it here. The Woj bombs will come more and more, so don't go too far. When news breaks, he's going to join us again.
Paul George is definitely leaving the Clippers after his agents met with the Clippers brass earlier this evening. There was no traction on a new deal. Afterward, the Clippers released a statement saying, quote, "Paul has informed us he is signing his next contract with another team," end quote. According to earlier reports, those 2 destinations look like Philadelphia or Orlando. It's worth noting that the Magic have reached a deal with Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, 3 years, $66 million. All right, back here with CBS Sports basketball analyst Chris Walker and CBS Sports NBA insider Bill Ryder. Bill, what's the latest here? Paul George telling the Clippers that he's going to sign elsewhere, now down to perhaps 2 teams.
I was on the phone with someone who works in an NBA Western Conference front office when this news came down that it wouldn't be the Clippers, and the immediate response from that person was, this is a Clippers organization that played a game they thought they could win and that they lost. Remember, they've already committed so much money to Kawhi Leonard and now James Harden that they are handcuffed. They cannot replace, even if they do not have the ability to even try to replace a player that even approximates Paul George's level, let alone the level of excellence he played at last year. So guys, this was expected. We saw this as a real possibility when Paul George opted out of that deal and took away the ability for the Clippers to trade him and maybe go to the Golden State Warriors. But now that it appears to be official and the Clippers have announced it before Paul George, I think the takeaway is the Clippers had made a massive error in judgment and not just giving him that 4th year. And it certainly looks like, given the other moves that have happened, the Sixers are absolutely prime, leader in the clubhouse, to sign PG in this offseason.
Bill, did this just come down to not them giving an extra year? Is that what it came down to with Paul George in L.A.?
It did, yes. So during the season, the extension that Kawhi Leonard signed was 3 years and about, I think, $9 million less per year than the max. And this is the deal that the Clippers offered Paul George and wanted him to take. He is 34 years old. He had played at an elite level. He was relatively durable this past year. Hasn't always been true, but he certainly was. And he wanted 4 years in the max. So he wanted Hakeem an extra year on what they offered him, and he wanted more money. And the problem that they faced, and I was just told this by someone, is the expectation in LA was he wouldn't want to go east. He is from Palmdale, which is outside of Los Angeles. He wanted to come back to the area. That's the reason he became a Clipper when he teamed up with Kawhi Leonard. This was a game of chicken, and it turned out Paul George was not willing to swerve. And so this is, as it's being pieced together from various folks by text now, and the person I talked to, and people earlier today, the view around the NBA is this was a strategic error in judgment. The Clippers thought they'd get him at 3 years and a little bit of a discount. They didn't, and this is a very, very problematic reality for them, and I think it's very good news for the Philadelphia 76ers.
Your reaction?
Yeah, and my reaction, Bill, is, I mean, how much money was it off? Was it $212 and $221 that Paul George would get, that $9 million, as you mentioned before?
I think that.
I'm sorry, yeah. Yeah. I was going to say that the funny thing is for me that if Paul George, and you see right there that his career highs and what he's done in his career and three-point shooting and foul line, et cetera, and for him to make that decision, sometimes to me, particularly if that's his home, it's L.A., right? And now all of a sudden Paul George is going to Philadelphia, where to me, again, although there are questions with Kawhi Leonard and his health, and bringing James Harden back, there are just as many questions in Philadelphia, and having a chance. I just believe people can talk about how loaded the West is, Bill, and you may disagree. The bottom line is when they were all healthy, they were one of the best teams in the NBA. So I'm sitting there going like, Paul, I mean, again, you can't count someone else's money. But, Paul, if you want to have some legacy, I don't know going to Philadelphia, right, with Tyrese Maxey, superstar, great player, Joel Embiid, often injured, but another great player, and then you coming there, taking a backseat to a degree, right, to a young superstar and an MVP. Is that the role that you want without any supporting cast around you? You know, I just think you made your job harder. And guess what? You got to go to Philadelphia. Now, I live in the Philadelphia area. It's a great town. You guys don't get mad at me when I come to Philadelphia Airport. I love the town. I went to Villanova, put my visa up. But at the end of the day, Paul, you really want that crowd on you? I just, Bill, that's what I struggle with. The money, to me, it's not an absorbent amount of money. I get the years, but it's not an absorbent amount of money.
I think it's like all interpersonal relationships and like all work situations. If you like the people you work with and you feel like you've been respected, you can have some flexibility. Whether this is a fair interpretation or not, the impression I get talking to folks within and outside that Clippers organization is Paul George felt disrespected by the offer that he was given. Now, some views of that are that he is being sensitive, and there would be some Paul George critics or some folks in the Clippers organization today who would view him as being thin-skinned. And other folks might view it as Paul George respecting and valuing himself for what he does and responding to the Clippers not offering him what they should have because they thought they could get one over on him. Either way, at least in reality, guys, it is a distinction without difference. He's going to be elsewhere, probably a Sixer. I'll say this too, Chris. I do think the Eastern Conference is markedly easier. And I do think that in a vacuum, it's an easier place to win a championship. But you make good points because you leave an often injured star in Kawhi Leonard, where if he's healthy, you have a great chance to be champions, but he's not reliable in that respect. And you go to a place where you have a similar situation. Joel Embiid, I think, he's clearly a top 3 player in the NBA. The guy's a former MVP. He's a stud. He's amazing. He's incredible. He's also injured all the time. Now, I think the Tyrese Maxey factor, some people will tell you the fact that he's there and he's a legitimate superstar and he's an upgrade over whoever you think the third best player on the Clippers is, but they don't have a complete roster. So I think it's a complicated stew here of trying to see the best fit in the best team, but also, as I understand it, Paul George feeling like he wasn't respected by the Clippers, and like a lot of us do, responding largely to that reality, feeling disrespected, and deciding he wanted to be somewhere else.
Bill, does Orlando have a real shot here, or perhaps is Paul George using this for leverage?
So Orlando's a team, yes, Orlando could make it work. Now, Sam Quinn, who writes for CBSSports.com, is really good at this, and he's put this on his Twitter. There's basically a series of players that they could trade and waive to create the space for Paul George. It's really hard to do. It's not impossible, but Orlando could make it work. And again, it's a 4-year max deal that he wants. He's not looking for a discount or he'd still be a Clipper. It's really easy for the Sixers to do. Philadelphia simply has the cap space. And so if they can convince Paul George that combination of him and Tyrese Maxey and Joel Embiid is a better fit and a winning fit, it's just a lot easier to make the pieces work. But to answer your question, Akeem, yes, not as seamless as it would be in Philadelphia, but Orlando as a spot, it's not as easy now. And with KCP going there,